Hey guys, it's Doc from the GoldHog, and today we're going to show you some field footage of the GoldHog in use. And we're going to go over a couple things, and I hope I make it kind of interesting for you today, because I'm also going to throw in some history of where we're going. We're going up to the North Georgia mountains, and I'm going to do a combination of some field runs with this and some tests and some history of the location we're going to. And I think it'll be fun. We had a real good day. It was a fun trip. And so instead of just making this sort of like a product video or to demonstrate how the unit works, I figured I'd throw in some history and some fun stuff along with it. So I'm going to break down how this video goes and the different sections that you're going to see from here on out. And if you're on our website, I'm probably going to put this video on a separate page that has chapter breakdowns. Because if you just want to see the unit running, you can see the unit running. If you want to see the history of where we're going and some of the neat facts, you can see that too. But we're going up near the Loud Mine in Georgia. And a lot of people are kind of confused about that, about the Loud Mine. So we're going to do a little bit of a history breakdown on that for you too. We're going to talk about the different places and sections of the mine. We're going to talk about running this. We're going to show us running this several different ways. So that's what we're going to do. One of the first things I wanted to do is I wanted to explain about how I got involved in this and how GoldHog came into existence. Because a lot of people go out and try and invent a product and say, I'm going to invent a product and I'm going to go sell it and I'm going to make a living doing that. And that's kind of backwards of how this whole thing started. Some of you are here for the first time. Some of you have watched all of our videos on our website. There's hours and hours and hours. But we spent over a year doing research on riffles, on sluice boxes, on gold and systems, prospecting systems and everything. And we did that because we wanted to improve our systems. We wanted to improve our dredges, our Highbankers. A couple of our friends were in the mining business and we wanted to work on some stuff for them, but we wanted to go back and challenge all the previous studies. There have been some studies in the past, but typically those studies have been limited to what they were actually using. So if a mining operation was using riffles and miner's moss, they went and studied riffles and miner's moss, and they studied the placement, the water flow, the feed rates, loss percentages. And what we wanted to do is we based some of our research on those studies, but then we said, let's throw everything out the window and let's start all over. And let's ask why and why not. And some of the stuff that we tried, I will never, ever, ever put on video because people would look at it and just laugh and it would be absolutely ridiculous. But we tried everything that we could possibly think of. We wanted to not only, the first thing we did is we studied gold. We studied how it reacts in water. We studied every aspect about gold, about its characteristics, about what it does compared to other materials. And then we went to the sluice box and we studied all kinds of riffles. We studied all kinds of mattings. We studied all kinds of equipment. We studied some of the largest commercial operations down to mid and small size, down to individual prospecting equipment. And it really, I mean, I'll be honest, it really was for me and for my equipment and for our equipment, but we wanted to break that gap. And that gap was pretty simple. Now that I had started working with some mining operations, a lot of people start out in prospecting and they start out with a pan, then they go to stream sluice, and they go to a Highbanker, then they go to dredge, and then they go from a 2-inch dredge to a 4-inch, and they go to a 6-inch dredge. And it seems like the prospector is always trying to go more and more and more, and that sort of fits into where we were going. We wanted to create products that, not necessarily products, we wanted to figure out a way to increase our mining ability and our volume. In other words, how can we step up our volume, increase our volume, and retain a good capture rate? And it didn't say 100%. And that's one of the things, I'll stop for a minute and I'll warn you. If there's anything you'll understand about our videos and about our products, you will never, ever, ever hear us make a claim, an outrageous claim. We will never use the term 99.9% or 100%. I just don't think that's right. Even in your large commercial operations, they have realistic percentages where they're saying, okay, we're at a 96% capture rate. That's a good capture rate for a mining operation. Some mines are running at 75 or 85%. They have difficulty because the areas they're working in. So I personally don't believe in 100% capture rates when it comes to large scale production, because if you're putting a lot of material through, and when I mean a lot, I'm talking per ton, then you're capturing a percentage of the gold. Hopefully you increase that percentage more and more. Now, if you're working 1 bucket of material, can I capture 100% of the gold in that 1 bucket of material? Absolutely. But the way that I like to operate and the way that I like to mine and prospect is I like to step it up. If I'm going to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours somewhere, set up all this equipment, do all this work, I'm going to do high volume. I'm going to work, and we're going to move as much of that material as possible. And so that's where these products stem from. How do we increase production for the average miner, or even the large scale or mid-size operation? How do we increase and keep that capture rate high? That's where all this came from. So we're never looking for 100% capture rate. We're just looking to increase, and we're trying to limit losses. Increase production, limit losses. That's our whole goal. And that theme is sort of repeated throughout our website, our videos, everything. Okay, so today is about the Highbanker, but I do want to talk real quick about the mattings. Oh, and by the way, I've had a couple people see this. They liked our logo. They liked the GoldHog logo. So this is one of my sweatshirts. But a lot of people are emailing us asking us, how can I get some of those sweatshirts or t-shirts? They like the logo. On the website, you'll see a link for GoldHog gear. It links over to Cafe Press, and if you know anything about Cafe Press, we just basically upload our logo to it, and you can choose what you want that logo on. But on Cafe Press, you have the option as a store owner to add markup to your product. So they have a base price on their product. So if a t-shirt's $14, you can then go in and add a markup to that, and then make sure this is clear. We don't add any markup to that. So if you want to order any of those logo gear, we do it at their flat cost. We don't make anything off it. And I'll give you a warning, don't order the label. There's a label on there, a window sticker, and I don't like it, so don't order that. It just doesn't, it's like static cling. I thought it would be sticky, and it's not, but don't order that one. But there's t-shirts, there's sweatshirts, if anyone wants it. Lots of people have emailed us about it, so it's there if you need it. All right, so let's talk about the mats for a second. And there's 2 main mats in our line. One is the UR mat, and one is the scrubber mat. And if this is your first time here, you need to go watch the videos on especially the scrubber mat, but also the UR mat, and they have different purposes. This is a scrubber mat that we actually use in this system here, and I'll get a little close up on it. But this is the scrubber mat that we actually use in our system. So this is what the scrubber mat looks like, and this is actually one of the mats that you'll see run. This is one of the mats you'll see run out in the field test in this machine. And knowing me, I'm kind of lazy, so there's probably gold still in this thing. But this is the main workhorse of your sluice. And we did a lot of study on the UR mat and a lot of research on the UR mat. And sometimes I think we did too much video on the UR mat and not enough on the scrubber, because really the scrubber is the main workhorse of any production bed. This is it. The UR mat is a specialty mat. The UR mat goes up under your header box, replaces the slick plate. If you have a longer box, you can put scrubber mat and then a section of your UR, maybe UR with expanded metal over it. Sometimes if someone's working sand, if they're working black sand in beach areas, I'll tell them to go scrubber UR, scrubber UR, scrubber UR. So there's a different variation, but I'm telling you, this is the main workhorse. You need to have scrubber inside of your machine here. Whether it's a dredge, whether it's a sluice, no matter what it is. And again, these are active mats, so they like velocity. You want to, and while I'm on this point, I want to stress this as well. A lot of people don't understand active matting. So I just want to touch on this point real quick. Active matting is a rapid exchange system. All your lights just blow by and your heavies are caught and worked. So a lot of people are afraid to turn it up. And I want to stress to you that you want to turn the volume up. not just water volume, but velocity, how quickly. So you want to turn up the volume, lower the pitch, get that water moving through. But I don't think a lot of people aren't getting the point that what you really need to do is you need to start off on the high end. In other words, I want you to turn this mat up as high as you possibly can, do a test, put material in, and I don't want to see anything in the mat. I want everything to blow out of that mat. And now you're thinking to yourself, why would he say that? Because we talk about the dials inside of a sluice bed. So what I really want to see you do is I really want to see you get the mat overactive, too active, and then dial it back down. Slow it down, slow it down, slow it down till you start to see black sand being caught in the mat and maybe a little bit of material that takes a little bit of time to process. If you're seeing a whole bunch of light material sit on these mats and not move, they're not active enough, and I can't stress that enough. These mats are made to be very, very active for high production. So you really want to get the mat overactive, get it just blowing out, and then reduce it. A lot of times you can't change too much on your volume, so you'll do that with pitch. Drop your pitch way down, get the velocity going, and then decrease it, decrease it, decrease it, and it's a balancing act. Can I blow this mat out and lose gold and have horrible losses? Absolutely. Can I make it hold too much and have horrible losses? Absolutely. But there's a dial setting in there, and that's what I want you to understand. Every single piece of equipment is different. People email us all the time, and they say, I've got a 14-inch wide sluice and it's 48 inches long. How many gallons per hour? And there's no number. There's no set number. You have to take this matting out in the field or set it up, and you have to test it. But I want you to test it to the higher end first. So I want you to get the mat extremely active, have it completely blowing out, moving real rapid, and then slowly dial it down to the point that you see black sand being held and a material being worked gently on that. That's the perfect point. You don't want to see a whole bunch of blondes just sitting on it. You want to see it, if you were to put material in, you'll see blonde material, and then that blonde material slowly disappears. That's the perfect point for this mat. So I can't answer questions if you're sending them in about what's the right pitch, what's the right water volume, what's the right, there's no way to answer that question. You have to adjust this mat accordingly. It's the same thing with any active mat like Vortex. You have to make that adjustment and figure out the right pitch and the right velocity. Now, the other thing I'll address real quick is stream sluices. A lot of people want to know about stream sluices. If you have a stream sluice, you're going to have to be able to get a lot of water volume and get pitch in that thing to get this mat active. But if you have a stream sluice, personally, I would recommend either using the UR mat under your current riffle system or expanded metal and increasing the velocity, or going with straight scrubber mat. And when you go with straight scrubber mat, again, you got to get that velocity up because stream sluices typically are low velocity. They're more gentle. You can actually do yourself harm in a stream sluice if you don't get that volume up. You got to understand that. So you want to get it up. Also, they say, well, how do I install it without my riffles in there? Go to the how to install it. I did a whole video about how to install a riffleless system with the matting in there, so go check that out. Last point I'm going to go to before we move on is I'm going to go to the installation of the mats and how you cut them. Guys, I've said this before. You have to take your time, take your time, take your time. Now, when we're talking about, this is a full strip of the scrubber matting. It's 36 inches. You actually take it, you measure it, and you cut it. And there's a certain way to cut it. And people are experimenting out there, which is really neat. We have people doing table saws, cut saws, all kinds of different things with it. But my most important warning for you is that this is an extruded product. And when you extrude rubber, it's never square. So it's kind of like, think of this like a 2x4 that you buy from the store. Is the 2x4 perfectly square? No, it's not. And so you have to understand that. So this end and this are not going to be 90 degrees. They're not going to be square. You have to go through and figure that out. So that's why I say measure 3 different times and get this one piece square. Put it in your sluice and test it, and then go and cut the next one. Put that piece in your sluice, make sure it's fitting right. You never go ahead and just cut all your pieces and then just assume and make your mat and assume it's going to fit. Take your time with it. You got to have patience with this matting system. So anyways, that's the scrubber mat. The UR, I've got one of those. It's the same thing, that 36 inches wide. They all interlock. There's a whole section on installing it. But I've had people say to me, well, without watching your install video, I went ahead and tried to do it myself. Don't do that. Watch the video. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people trying different stuff with different saws and all kinds of stuff. So over this next year, it'll evolve and we'll have some new stuff for you. Okay, so we're about to move in. We're going to go out to the field. We're going to do some runs on this, and we're going to set it up a couple ways. We're going to set it up as a Highbanker. We're going to set it up as a dredge. We're going to set it up as an electric system using bilge pumps, and then we're going to dredge and Highbank at the same time. So I'm going to show you those features. But in the Highbank section, I wanted to sort of break down, you're going to see me, I have a custom mod to this, and I'm telling you, this is one of the cool things about this unit. People are going to be customizing this unit to their own needs all the time, and you can do whatever you want to it. There's all kinds of customizations. People are going to do stuff with grates up here. We already see it with hoses. But one of the things I like to do is in North Georgia and a lot of places in the country, you have a lot of gems. And I like gems. Not only gold, we work it, but as it's coming off, there's gemstones falling off. And when you're digging down in the ground, typically if you're finding gold, you're also going to find gems in that area too, in most parts of the country, not all. Now that's for digging earth, not necessarily dredging. So I came up with a little system that you'll see that is a little wire grate system that comes off, and the gems actually get washed along with the other rocks and they pile up. So I wanted to show you, this is, these are some of the gemstones. They look kind of ugly, but I wanted to show you this because, I mean, here's a piece of amethyst, here's adventurine, here are some emeralds, uncut. This is a dark quartz, but I mean, here's a ruby or sapphire stone. Whether it has a good cut in it, I don't know, but it might have a star inside of it. You can see how that shimmers in the light. But you would look at this stone, you would look at that stone and say, oh, that's just a rock, and throw it away. Well, it's heavy as lead and it's a ruby or sapphire. So if you don't understand how to identify these things, take the time to learn how to identify them. It's pretty neat. Because the other thing I'm going to show you, sorry for the butt shot, is say, well, why do you worry about gemstones? And this is what I'm going to show you. This is I think 6 months. So I wanted to show you these, and this is what I have done from the gems that we've found. I had some cut, but I give them. I don't sell these really. I'm not into gemstones to make money or make a living. I do this because we enjoy it. The kids like it. My son loves to go through. He doesn't care about the gold. It's like he doesn't care, but he finds a big chunk of amethyst. He's all excited. So we actually go through and we save all the gemstones, and we've had a couple of them cut. The place that we're going to go to has cut a few of them. I've got a friend that lives down south of me that cuts them for me too. But I've got rubies, sapphires, garnets, emeralds, amethyst, quartz, citrine, smoky quartz, all kinds of cuts in here. But you're like, okay, well, great, you got stones cut. But I want to show you something why. If you find over 6 months, every once in a while, you might find a very nice stone. And I'm going to show you two. And the two I'm going to pull out are my favorites. But I'm going to show you, and we give these as Christmas presents or birthday presents. Like to my my daughter, I had a nice garnet set in a gold ring, beautiful ring. My mom, we gave her one, but I mean, it's the type of thing where they mean something because we found them here locally, we had them cut, and then we give them to them, so it's kind of neat. I'm going to show you these two. These are sort of my pride and joys, but this is a ruby we found, and this is a emerald that we found. I had them cut. Now, I'm not trying to make you go out and get into the gem business, but just so you understand, we had both of these appraised. This one appraised for right at $4,000. This one is right about $3,300. So those are two of my best gems that I've found. So all of a sudden you're probably saying to yourself, man, how many hundreds or thousands of dollars have I left sitting on the ground out there That's why I'm going to show you my screen system that I like to use with this. Love the gems. They're fun. You know, it's, to me, they're good looking. I love gold, but this also makes it fun too for us. It's kind of a challenge. So I figured I'd show you that. That's kind of a neat point. Okay, now, and before we go out in this field, before we go out to the field footage real quick, we've had a lot of people talk about the skimming effect of this tray, and understand that we went through, I forget, 10, 12 different trays on this, and this all started off because we wanted to be able to separate clean stones from the gold and the mud and black sand. That's how this started. We cut apart different sluices, we put trays on them, and all of a sudden we said, hey, this is working. Let's proceed with this and let's figure this out. And we spent, it was almost a full 8 months to develop this skimming system and to measure it and make sure that it works properly. And a lot of people are skeptical about whether the gold actually falls into the system. And I'm telling you that I do not know what the percentage rate is offhand, but if I had to guess from the testing that we've done, I would say that it's above 96%, above close to 98% of the gold that you're going to put through here at a moderate to high volume is going to enter this system. If by some chance, and you're going to hear me in the field talking about this, if by some chance gold doesn't get into the system and falls off the end, what we do is we dig a hole or put a bucket down here. And so we run a huge volume of material. If it has not entered into the system, it's sitting right here. So then what we can do is, before we stop for a cleanup, is we take that hole that we've dug or that bucket and we feed that material through very slowly. And we feed it through 2 or 3 times. So it only takes us about 5 minutes, the small amount of material that's sitting here, to rerun that system. So that's how you say, okay, well, I don't think it's going into the system. It's, you know, all the gold's not going in there, fine. If you're unsure, put it there. I've gotten to the point where I don't even rerun the system. Matter of fact, we put a bucket out there during this test, and the gold you're going to see that we recovered, we did not rerun that system. We did not rerun any of the gold that was sitting down here in this bucket. I kind of forgot, to be honest. So it was just what the skimmer tray caught the first time. That's important. And I'll be honest, it blew my mind. So the tray pattern here is specifically designed to start slowly skimming gold up here, slowly skimming, and then at the very end, rapidly skimming, because we want this material to have velocity, the lights and the rocks to have enough velocity to fall off of here. But the only thing that enters into our sluice trays is going to be material that's pre-classified to about 1/4, 3/8 of an inch. So when we're talking about the skimmer tray, I want you to understand, a lot of people are very skeptical about that, and that's fine, I understand. Whenever it comes out with a new product or something a little bit different, people don't understand it, and they're hesitant, they're skeptic about it. But I'm going to show you today, we're going to show you the field footage, and then I'm going to show you what we actually found. And you're going to be, I was thoroughly impressed. I was almost shocked with what this tray and the amount of fine gold that is captured out of the material we were working. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take you out to the field, and I'm going to show you this running as a Highbanker. I do break it down a little bit in the field and talk about it, but before we go out there, I want you to understand something funny. This area that we're going to, they actually dig into the ground, and they're bringing up the same material that they use in their mining. When they actually mine, they put piles by the creek, the same piles that they actually do for their mine. And in Georgia, we have a lot of clay, especially up in North Georgia. And the problem is every so often they'll hit big clay pockets along with their regular pockets. So they'll be going down and getting clay. And when we arrived there and I saw the pile, I said, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, this is not good, because here we are we went out to do a speed trial. We're not out there really to do a large run or to catch a lot of gold. We're going to do our speed run, because that was the main thing I wanted to do. I wanted to show the capacity of this machine. So we wanted to see how long it took to run 1 ton of material. Because we know, we weighed the buckets, and the buckets weighed right at 47 pounds, 48 pounds on each bucket. And that was filling them right up to about 2 inches from the top, 2 or 3 inches from the top. So we knew we had to move about 42 buckets to move a ton to comfortably say we know we moved a ton of material. And when we got there, the material was that gray clay ball looking stuff, and it was just like, oh man, I couldn't have picked a worse day to come up because they hit a heavy clay area. And because I knew that this material here is just miserable to work. And you're gonna see it. You're gonna see the clay balls running through this machine. The clay balls, they're the size of baseballs, softballs, human heads rolling through this. And it was just like, this is not good. But I was actually shocked because the amount of gold that we actually captured in this, I thought we'd get very, very little gold. We only ran for 2 hours. That's what I'm gonna tell you. We ran 1 ton of material in 26 minutes through this machine. And everyone's gonna stop and sort of say, come on, 1 ton and you're gonna see it, and I'm gonna show you, we time trial, we did it. But then people are gonna say, well, you can't catch all the gold running through that fast. And I'm telling you, we've worked with this machine hundreds of times now, and it still amazes me, even in heavy clay-borne areas, how this machine works. It breaks up the material and reworks it. And again, if it doesn't, it's sitting right here, but we did not rerun that batch of material that was on the end. This is just the first run. So whatever came through here on the first run and went through the machine, that's the gold we caught. And I think you'll be shocked. I was when I looked at the material. So without further ado, we're going to take you out to the field, and I'm going to show you that footage of this running as a Highbanker first. Hey guys, it's Doc, and today we're going to set up the GoldHog, and I'm going to show you how quickly it sets up. We've just brought everything down to the creek. We've got some dirt starting to pile up here. I've had them loading up some buckets because we're going to do a time run too. So it really is pretty simple. The night before, I put all my mattings in and decide how I'm going to set it up. So now all I have to do is just come down. Now this creek, it has a lot of rocks further up, but there's a real sandy spot here that I like to work. Like to set up on, so I put a 2x4. Sometimes I put rocks under the legs just to keep that part from sinking down in it. But this is the base unit. The base unit has the legs. The discharge port is on the back. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm running scrubber, UR with expanded metal, and then scrubber. And later we'll probably throw in a vortex layer. I may even throw in some riffles later. But just to show you that you can use whatever you want in any of the trays, because you got 3 trays. And of course the key is exposing this to various materials or various surfaces, various working surfaces. We just don't want the same working surface all the way down, because if it's not being caught in one surface, it needs to be caught in the next. So I'm going to position my base down, make sure it's pretty level. Then all I do, I've already got my mattings already set up in here. I'm just going to put this right on the top here, and it just sets in. You'll feel a little bit of a lock, but once it's in there, it's sturdy and locked. Then I'm going to put on the second tray. Again, if one side has a hole, the next side doesn't, so you put it on the next one, and it's all locked into place. So now I've got my 3 processing trays. For this setup, again, you can change the pitch and angle of this based on the amount of water velocity you have, the water flow, and what you want the individual mat velocity to be. So if I want this one to be a slower velocity, the next one to be higher, and then the next one to be slower, I can change the angle of this unit and I can expose it. If I want to keep them all the same, then I level out these slots here. These slots tell you when it's level. They need to be parallel to the ground that you're working if you want it completely level. I like to do a little bit different velocity because I want my UR with expanded to have a higher velocity. That's just something I'm going to try today. So then I take my top unit, I put my top unit on, and I've already got a hose attached to it, and I've got my 1.5-inch hose attached here. And again, this piece swivels, this main piece swivels, so my pump is down over here, and normally I would have to go straight and then have a kink in my hose, and that's why we leave this piece loose. So now this piece over here is pointing this way, and I can adjust this main feeder tube. So now I've got that set in. Again, I like to not glue it. You may have this fall out once in a while, but you can glue it if you want. But we're also going to, today we're probably going to walk you through a little bit of dredging and HighBanking combo, and we're also going to probably set it up in a battery unit too and show you how it runs on bilge pumps. So now I've got the unit set up. All I have to do is start my pump. I'm pretty much ready to go. Like I said, it's a 5-minute setup. You just got to get it level. If you want to go ahead and, if you're on a real sandy bottom, we just use pretty much straight iron legs. If you want to put something under it to keep it up, you can do that. Again, I've got this end high. Normally, you always start this end as low as possible, so I'll probably drop it down a little bit. But I like to have this box right about my waist, so it's just easy to dump into, because I'm a short guy. So we're going to fill up, we're going to start up the unit. I'm going to show you how it runs. Then we're going to run some dirt. We'll do a time trial. I think in this time trial, we're going to time how long it takes to run 1 ton of material. So we're going to time that. We know the weight of the buckets. We know how many we have to process. We're going to see how long it takes to actually run 1 ton through the machine. Now, here's where you can play with this machine. Everyone had a bike when they were little, and everyone did customizations to it. You put on special handlebars, you put on a special seat, you put lights on it. The same thing with this. You can do anything you want to this machine, and we've already had a bunch of people that have used this machine in test runs, and they've actually gone ahead and done some own customization to it, and that's really neat. So I'm going to show you something that I did, because today we're in the North Georgia mountains, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history later on this place. But there's a lot of gems in this material, and this material, I'm going to warn you, is probably some of the worst material that you can work, because it is, I would say, probably 50% clay. If you can see that, that's the material we're running. It is almost solid clay. So this material needs to be banged around and run through and run through. But what I can do is, there's 2 options. A lot of people say, well, I'm not sure that all my gold is going in here. Well, we've tested it, and your gold goes in here. But you can dig a hole at the end, let the material run off, run for an hour or 2, and then just take that hole, dig that hole out, put it back through nice and slowly. If there's any gold that didn't get into the machine, let's say it's stuck in the clay and you want it broken up more, it'll sit there and be broken up and pounded and pounded and pounded. Then you can take your shovel, take this out, and refeed that material that's been discharged, because it's never been worked. Now you can do it. Now you've got it all broken down, and it's sitting right there, and you'll see it. I usually dig a little trench. The water runs by here. All the material will feed into here, and then after an hour or 2, whatever, I go in and dig this out before I clean out and run that material through slowly a couple times. But you'll see how high production this machine is. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, if you're working in an area and there's a lot of gems, and in a lot of places, if you're finding gold, you really need to learn gem identification. I think that's really important, because rubies look like ugly stones when you're going around finding them. So we find a lot of gems in this area. When I'm talking a lot, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to show you how much when I mean a lot a little bit later. But we find a ton of gems. Amethysts, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, topaz, you name it, we find it up here. So this is a little system that I devised. Again, this is my custom mod for this system. I'm going to put a bucket with holes here. And what this is just a piece of regular shelving, just wire grate shelving. And so what's going to happen is, as this water falls off here, anything that's about a 1/2 inch or larger is going to roll over here where I can identify it, and I can be looking for gems in that pile. If it's gold, it's going to fall into this bucket. If this machine happens to miss it, it's going to fall into the bucket, and it'll be sitting there. You'll see the bucket draining and draining and draining, but if there's any gold in there, it's going to stay in that bucket. So I'm going to adjust this once we get it started, but you'll see clean rocks and big clay balls rolling off this, and you'll see the rest of the material running here. So what we'll do is, we'll run, say, a ton of material. If we run 2,000 pounds of material through the machine, we'll do a shutdown maybe. We'll go through, I'll take this bucket and run it very slowly through here just in case, and before I do my clean out, and then we'll inspect stones, and that just gives us that triple check. But it's an amazing machine. If you like to find gems, which you probably do, maybe they may not even know it, if you like to find gems, you'll see how this little system works, and it just kicks them off and kicks them off. All right, so let's go ahead and let's fire up this pump again real quick. All right, so what I did is I dug down that bucket a little bit just to give it more of a steep pitch so that my rocks fall off a little bit better. And he's going to fire up the motor again. We're going to see what we got here. So this is how I set my machine up, and you can do it any way you want, but this is how I like to do it. Then I'll come in and I'll do a little drainage ditch off on the sides. I'll come in here and dig a little drainage ditch. Now I'm pretty much set. Set up 5 to 10 minutes, get it refined for your gems if you're looking for gems. You can see how clean the stones are. I'll show you some of that in a minute. But now I'm just going to be running through. Again, I have this on pretty low volume, water volume. So you can see how all those rocks just run off here. The clay balls, rocks. That's clay. So a lot of people have asked, well, how does it work in clay areas? Let me tell you what, we're running clay balls the size of human heads through here sometimes. So we just got to go ahead and kick them out. But I'm going to be looking for rubies, amethyst, and as an example, I just did 1 or 2 little buckets and I'm already pulling out amethyst out of here. I already see a topaz and an amethyst down in there. But I'm also going to show you that this system has real good water flow in it right now. I have medium velocity on my scrubber. I have a higher velocity on my UR and a medium velocity on my scrubber down below. So I'm actually going to crank up the water just a little bit, I think. I'm going to crank up, again, this is that dial situation. I'm going to crank up the water a little bit, and I'm going to drop this angle down, adjust it just a little bit, get it perfectly set up, and then we're going to run a ton of material and time it. We're going to see how long it takes to run a ton. Okay guys, so we're about to do a time trial and I'm going to time this. What we're going to do is we're going to try and move 42 buckets because they weigh we weighed them and they're about 48, 49 pounds when we have them 3/4 full, and it's actually more than that. So we're going to move more than a ton of material. 42 buckets is what we need to do. We're going to time it. David, why don't you go over and start that pump? We'll get the pump running and we'll see what the unit can do. And again, you'll be able to see that if there's anything missed as far as gold, it's going to be sitting in that bucket. You're going to see huge clay balls running through here, big clay balls. All right, everyone in position. Morgan's going to be feeding the machine, David's going to be running buckets, Rick's going to be shoveling the dirt. So I got 3 guys that are going to be working on this for me. And so we're going to time it when I say go, so. And go ahead. And here we go. Let's see how long it takes. And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to sort of walk around with the camera and let you see the system running. And this is a high-speed run, of course. We're not trying to be real careful. You can slow the feed rate down if you have an area that has a whole bunch of gold. But we want to test the ultimate limit. We want to push the machine, see how far we can go with this What's the highest capacity we can do? How long, fast run, will it take us to do a ton? This is what I wanted to show you guys. This is part of what we're dealing with. This is on the time run. This is clay. And this material, I would say, is close to 50% clay right now. They're digging in an area that's got a ton of clay in it. There's still decent gold in it. There's a lot of gems in it, but you're having to deal with this. And this is, for most people, this is miserable. And I got clay balls that are 10 inches round that we're having to deal with. And what we're doing is we're just hammering it and hammering it and hammering it through this machine. So, you know, how long would it take? This clay stuff is just, thank God we got rubber mats in this thing, that's all I can say. Every once in a while I'll just come by and clean off the pile, because if you're moving a ton of material in a short period, it's going to be heavy. I mean, it's so heavy clay that normally these rocks would be perfectly clean. They're washed and they're clean, but that clay that's coming down with them, turning them gray, it's hard to see rubies and sapphires. So I may have to go back and wash some of this. Now normally I'd switch out that bucket after a while, but since we're doing a time trial, I'm not going to switch it. We're just going to leave it. It's getting a little full, but I got it. We're down to the last bucket here. Morgan's finishing up. And that's it. That was 42 buckets. That's 1 ton of material. And I just hit the stop clock just now. And it is 25 minutes and 46 seconds. So 26 minutes to run 42 buckets. They all weigh about 48 pounds each, but this clay that's even heavier. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the engine now. I'm going to shut down the pump, and I'm going to show you what it kind of looks like after you're running a ton of material through this thing. Hey David, go ahead and kill that engine. David, go ahead and kill it. Okay, so now we got a little peace and quiet, and you can see the carnage all around. But this is 1 ton of material that we ran through, and it took us 26 minutes to run 1 ton of material. Now, when I say it took 26 minutes to run 1 ton, that's classified to 3/8 of an inch through the machine. So nothing went into the sluice boxes that was larger than 3/8 of an inch. We set up this little kick system for gems. Now we've got, and you can see when I say there's no classifying on this machine, I want you to look at these rocks. I mean, these are boulders that were running through this machine. So we didn't classify it all. We didn't pull out big boulders. We just let them roll through. And you can see down here, I'm going to show you maybe a little close up. You can see down here that everything down here is going to be large stones, and it's going to be these stupid clay balls that we're having to deal with. This thing is just packed with clay today. They hit a big clay pocket, I guess, but there's a lot of river rocks in here, so we're working it. I found a ton of gems already. I don't know where I put them, but I found a ton of gems, amethyst and all kinds of stuff. Some citrine, different stones. But the big rocks are going to be right here. This bucket, which I would normally change out when it gets about full, I just left it. But this is catching everything. There's lots of smalls in there that are over 1/4 of an inch. And I will rerun this bucket very slowly. If any gold didn't get into that machine, it's going to be sitting right in that bucket. So now I can run that very slowly through the machine and make sure everything goes through again. So if it's set in clay, it's sitting in there getting pounded and pounded and pounded and getting broken up. But it's just absolute carnage. And then I'm going to bring you in and let you see what the machine looks like now that we shut it down too. So get ready to roll. Here we go. We're out, and this is called field footage here, folks. This is kind of raw. All right, so this is our carnage, we'll call it. That's 1 ton of material in 26 minutes. You're gonna see a ton of clay down here, an absolute ton. It was absolutely amazing how much was down in here. Then you're gonna see the secondary bucket, which, if anything, that's my little rig up, custom rig I did because I always check for gems. But anything that didn't go into here is gonna be sitting in that bucket right there. Then you've got your machine, and we're going to pop that open and take a look at that in just a sec. Let me get that screen out of there. But that's my little custom screen setup, and I just unhooked that. My bucket's sitting there. I'm going to take my top off. And normally, of course, I'd be wearing gloves. So I'm going to look in here, and I already see gold in here. So I can already start to see some gold up here in the first tray. So that's a good sign. But the mats are pretty clean. I want to show you what they look like. This is what they look like after running 1 ton of material. That's your first mat. So again, it's going to be mostly heavies in there. If you move that light material on top, you're going to see heavies. And then I'm going to take you in and I'm going to go to the next tray real quick. So let's take this one off.
keep it tilted backward. And here's my next tray, and this next tray has UR mat in it with expanded metal on it. And nice and clean, black sands, good run on that tray. And I can already see gold in here. Again, I'm going to keep that tray pointed this way. And then my final tray, this is my third tray, and that's what the last tray is going to look like. So I was running scrubber, UR with expanded, and then scrubber. So that's a ton of material run through here. My gold is all here, my gems are down here. Again, just an amazing system to be able to run pretty quick. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I clean up these mats. Again, if you know anything about me, I always have a pink bucket for cons. So I don't even have to take the mats out of here if I don't want. We designed the unit to be able to sit inside of a bucket. So the whole tray will just sit inside of here, and then I can just tip it up and I can wash it. Tip it up, wash it. Now, am I getting all my gold out of these mats? Am I getting all my gold out of these mats? No, probably not. But this is a good just washing point. Get as much as you can out. And now you're clean, ready to run again. So there's tray 1. Put another tray in. Tray 2. And when you're using your scrubber mat, you got to throw the water up under these riffles. So that's good enough for a clean out for me. Tip it on its side a little bit. And now I'm going to take my last tray, pull it out, and it has a discharge port on the end. So that's important to remember. So this is my last tray, my bottom tray, and it has a discharge port on the end, but I'm running scrubber in it too. And that's fine for now. And so here we are running, that was 1 ton of material, and there's my cons out of the mats. So today I'm guessing I've worked this area well enough. To know that there's moderate gold here. It's not a real heavy gold. You'll get a lot of gems, and you'll get moderate gold, I would say. It depends on the day. Some days are better than others. Some days I'll get really good gold. Some days I'm not getting much at all. And it's because they actually dig in the ground here, just like a normal mine would. They're out there digging in certain points, and you're going to hit gold areas and non-gold areas. And so that's the dirt we're running. So we'll check this out. And I think the next thing we're going to do is probably going to set up and do a little dredging real quick and see how that works in dredging and high bank combo. And there it is with your electric pump feeding into it. There's your electric pump feeding into the 2 sides. And we're pulling water out of the creek there. Scrubber, UR scrubber. Now, this is not my favorite way to run this machine, I'll be honest. I like to get it up, I like to get this thing going and clipping and clipping. I want this water running through here real fast. But it is an option, just so you know. Okay, so now you've seen it run as a HighBanker, and now you've seen the system run electric, and now we're going to take you out and I'm going to show you on the dredge.
I brought along my 2-inch dredge equipment just because that's really what fits in this sort of standard. We do not include in this machine the dredge attachment. You can order it anywhere you want, and the hoses or anything like that. But you can dredge with this system, and I prefer to dredge with this system than probably anything else, because typically in a dredge system you're having to deal with all the rocks, and so you've got to use some kind of screening system or deal with the rocks going through your dredge. And again, the whole principle of this system is nothing enters into your sluice beds other than material that's smaller than 3/8 of an inch. And that's one of the reasons why you take a very active mat, you run it through close to 80 inches of different sluice sections, and it's all pre-classified. You're going to have good success with it. So we're going to run it as a dredge, and you're going to see that we're running it as a dredge. Then I'm going to show it running while we're dredging. Someone else is going to be high banking. Now, there are a couple systems out there that you can do this with. You can actually, they have an open tray and you can dredge and you can pour material in. The problem is when you do that, typically you're overloading your system. So those systems have a box, and then after their box, they have an actual sluice bed. So they have a 30-inch sluice bed, so you have dredge material coming in, then you're dumping in high bank material. So you're kind of overloading your sluice bed at that point. The nice thing about this is that the only, again, because we're using the skimmer tray on the system, the only thing that's going into this system from the dredging part of this is the smaller than 3/8 plus the high banking, smaller than 3/8. We're not overloading the system. We're not overloading the system with lights, with rocks, and different material. Now, so we're going to show all that in the dredge part of it, but one thing that I want you to show, a lot of people say, well, you can't move a lot of material with a 2-inch dredge, and I agree. When you go up to 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, you're going to move a lot more material. But for the average person, being able to have a portable unit, a 2-inch is a pretty good system, or 2.5 or 3. And what you're going to see is we only dredge for about 25 minutes. And I want you to see we worked a gravel bar. But this is something I didn't realize even until we got back and I started looking at the footage. In 25 minutes, I want you to see the size hole that we created in 25 minutes and how deep we got. The reason being is because while one person is dredging material, the other person can go in with a shovel, dig in that hole as well, and dump the material into this system. Plus we have another person dumping high bank material into this system. So we're able to move a huge amount of material, but I want you to watch that. You'll probably catch it on here. You'll probably catch that this is 25 minutes of dredging, and I want you to see the hole. It goes from nothing to about 3 feet around and almost 3 feet deep in 25 minutes. That's moving a lot of material for a 2-inch dredge. When I finally got home and I reviewed this footage, all of a sudden I realized that. I said, man, that's a big hole for 25 minutes. So keep an eye out for that, and we're going to go out and show you that right now.
Okay guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run this unit as a dredge. Actually, we're going to run it combo too. So we've moved away from the dirt piles down over here and doing all that high banking, and now we've moved up in the creek, and I've got a pinch point. I got a real sharp corner here that comes down, and there's a bunch of sandbars, but then there's this one spot right here that's a big gravel bed, and that's what I want to work. And you'll see us, what we're doing is we're digging through that gravel bed with shovels, and using just a 2-inch, we're moving a ton of material through this, trying to get that smaller loose material out from in that gravel. But then while they're doing that, while they're working dredging that hard point, they're getting close to a little bit of hard pack in there. I'm also gonna have Morgan feed material. So this is probably one of the biggest advantages I think of this whole system is I'm dredging and I'm high banking at the same time. So we're gonna fire up and let's see what happens. All right, so we got a bunch of material coming in here. We're digging down to that layer below the gravel. It's almost like a clay mixture, and that's what we're working right now. But again, I can high bank off this system because it's the same system. Now I'm only using 2 trays. Normally we run 3 when we dredge, but since we're probably going to have a lot of clay in here, I'm just going with scrubber. I'm just going to scrub it down. All right. So David's down there and he's dredging in that hole. and we're digging and dredging at the same time. And you can see the amount of material going in. That's a bunch of material going down here, working out. And again, Morgan, grab a bucket. But if I want, I'm going to have Morgan very lightly high bank while we're dredging. But he's got to watch this tray because I have it at a low angle here. So he's just going to gently feed it. I probably should classify that material first, but we're just out here showing you guys how to work it. So at the same time, they're dredging. He's high banking. They're dredging. He's high banking. There's that pinch point I'm talking about. That pinch point comes around a big bend and you'll see that sandbar over here. The water all slams into here. You can see the erosion. And then all of a sudden you have this gravel bar. So it's all coming through here and it's starting to straighten out, and right in here it's all gravel. And that's what we're doing. So we're taking this gravel and we're digging down to where we get into a hard pack, or a clay level at least, and we're going to work that. At the same time, we're over here running high bank material too. High pressure pump, we put ours on a wooden stand, and I got it at about half throttle. If I put it up at full throttle, if I put that thing at full throttle, that blue hose may go shooting off that way. This thing's pretty powerful. Take a scoop out of there, David. He's going to take a scoop out of here, and he's going to dump it in that machine over there, and he's going to double up on the dredging ability here. And we got, within about 25 minutes, we got a hole that's probably about 3 feet around, probably getting close to 3 feet deep into that car right there. Trying to get down to something firm here. Whew. Hey guys, so today we ran the GoldHog unit several different ways. We ran it as a high banker, we ran it as a dredge, we ran it under electric, ran it several different ways, and again, we weren't trying to really find gold today. Unfortunately, it kind of bothers me because when I come up here, I like to work for gold. We did a 25-minute, 40-second run, 26 minutes. And we moved 1 ton of material, over 1 ton of material through the Highbanker. Then we went ahead and set up and just did a dredge run for you, and so that showed you that you can move a lot of material, even with a 2 or 2.5 inch for a portable unit. And at the same time, we were both high banking material that was dug material, plus digging the hole out even deeper while they were dredging to assist them and running that material through. So we really didn't move a lot of material. We only probably did about 30 minutes of dredging and 25 minutes of moving material. But I wanted to go over a little bit about the history of this place, and I think it's pretty interesting. This is Golden Gems in Cleveland, Georgia, and we come up here all the time. I bring my son was a lot younger. We used to come up, but it's a really neat place. This is a dirt road behind me. There's 2 piles that they have that are actually dug material. So they bring in mine material from their mining section that you can work through, which has a lot of emeralds, which has a lot of gems in it. And it has a decent amount of gold. Then if you want, you can still, this is one of the few places you can come out here and you can dredge, you can high bank, you can do whatever you want. If you want to pan, run a stream sluice. And there's 2 piles along this dirt road that run along this creek that you see beside me. It's a beautiful area. I don't know how many acres. I think it's maybe 80 or 100 that they own up here, but there's a log cabin. I'll probably show you that. There's a log cabin up there. They've got camp areas. It's a great place and it's real affordable, but it's one of my favorite places to come because it's exciting. You never know what you're going to find. But this is part of the old Loud Mine, and the history of that, and I'm pretty close to it, I'm not exact, but about 1830 is when the Loud Mine was sort of in existence, and after, it was 2,500 acres right in this area. And after the Civil War, the state of Georgia actually divvied up that land into 50, 80, 90 acre tracts. And that's where it all got split up. And a lot of you know, if you're in the GPAA or the LDMA, the Loud Mine portion that's owned by the LDMA is back over there a couple miles. And they call that the Loud Mine. Well, this used to also be part of the Loud Mine. And but now it's the Golden Gems, and still it's one of the only active gold mines still in Georgia, where they actually dig from the earth and they find old creek beds but a real good operation. But Brian, the owner here, Brian's owned it for over 30 years, and I'm going to scan some pictures that I borrowed from him of way back when they were building the big plant. And this thing is pretty massive. I mean, this was a big operation. When he was young and strapping like all of us 30 years ago, they owned it. He and his partner, they came up here and they built this. It was a big operation, and now they've scaled it down to a smaller one. A lot of people think, well, it's just a tourist place, and it's not. It's an actual working gold mine, and that's what I like about it. You can come up here and you'll find, this is one stone we just found today. It's a sapphire or ruby, same thing. You find all kinds of quartz, you find amethyst, you find rubies, we find topaz, we find lots of emeralds up here. And that's why we like to use the separator system, because there's a ton of gems up here. So if you come up, keep an eye out for the gems and learn how to identify them, because I'm going to show you this. This is technically right here, that ugly thing right there. That ugly thing right there is a sapphire or ruby that we just got out of the ground, and it looks like a gray rock, but it's real heavy. It's about heavy as lead. So anyways, these are some of the piles of the stuff, and you can tell that a lot of this is old river rock. It's all rounded off quartz. It's been in here thousands and thousands of years that they're digging up. The river's right behind you. It's real convenient. Again, camping places, restrooms. Real nice place to work. The guys are actually putting away equipment right now. But anyways, get back to the history of it. They've owned it. Brian's owned it for 30 years, and he had Susan, his partner now, Susan with him, own it. It's a great operation if you ever want to come up. But again, it's still an active gold mine. They still work here. We've worked with them a little bit. But again, we only ran one run on the Highbanker, 25 minutes. We only did a couple minutes electric, and then we went to Dredge, did about 30 minutes. And I got about, I've got about that much in cons. So it's probably maybe a half a gallon of cons from the mats. We mostly ran scrubber mat today. And the reason why we ran scrubber mat is because it's just a massive clay problem. I mean, this stuff is just full of clay balls this big. It's really hard to work, and we need to sort of scrub it up as much as possible. But I'll tell you this much, just running, I went into these cons today, and I just took my hand and did one little scoop. So I took about 1/4 cup. And I just happened to, let me see if I can show you some of this. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm going to try and get you to see it. Get water all over me. But I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but there's all kinds of little gold right in here. I'm going to keep it on my finger, get it close. There's all kinds of little gold all up in here, and there's some down here, 50s, 30s. There's 50s, there's some hundreds up here. But this is just one little scoop out of that whole half gallon. And I'm surprised. Now, don't forget that this was running all that clay. And we did not rerun that end bucket. We did not rerun that end bucket. But that's just one little scoop right there. And I hope you guys can see that. One little scoop, all that gold up in here. There's a bunch of it still. I didn't really pan it. I was just working out of a bucket. And there's more. There's all kinds of gold in here. We got a bunch of gold. And I'll be honest, I'm actually kind of surprised because we usually don't get that much gold up here. We'll get about half that much. When we ran 1 ton, and man, that's for me. Normally when we hit this clay situation, we have a tough time with the gold, but now that we've got that machine and we've got the scrubber mat, that's just amazing to me. That's proof in the pudding right there. That's amazing that we're getting that much gold. And I still, again, I took one little scoop, 1/4 of a cup, and that's what I'm seeing in there, and I still got half a gallon. So I'm just tickled to death with that. That's a lot of gold for this dirt, for all that clay. So anyways, I hate to have it sound like a commercial for gold and gems, but we know the folks up here well. We come up here all the time. Brian, Susan, and all the folks up there at the place, they're real helpful. If you find gemstones, they'll help you identify them. They'll tell you what they are, and they have charts up there too. But real inexpensive. I think it's like 20 bucks to come down here and do it. If you have a Highbanker, they charge you. It's probably 50 or 75 for a full day. Dredge is by the inch, $10 an inch, I think. But they'll rent pans to whoever doesn't. If people are just tourists, they want to drop by. But there are a lot of serious actual prospectors and that come down here and work this place pretty heavy. And probably after they see this gold, they're going to be coming down here more. This was phenomenal. This was a phenomenal trip for us running that machine. I would never expected that much gold out of that clay. That was amazing. So what I'll probably do is I'm probably just going to walk around the property real quick and shoot some stuff, and I'll tell you what it is as we see it. And we're going to load up all this crap now. So we'll see you in a little bit. Hey guys, it's Doc, and we're leaving one of the dirt piles. So I figured I'd actually show you so you know what we're talking about. Here's the actual dirt pile back there. And here's the road in front of us, the exit road. And we'll actually go by, that was pile number 1. We're actually going to take you by pile number 2. And so here's pile number 2, there's the creek. And again, lots of buckets. Thank God for buckets. Don't know who that is, but he's working. He's got a nice little hole out of that pile. But anyways, that's pile number 2 over here. And it's right next to the creek, and you can work that, and it's here all the time. But look, you can see those clay balls. That's what we've been having to do. You can see those clay balls right on the back of that. That's what I want to show you. Look at those clay balls. Those aren't rocks. We are working a ton of clay today. But anyways, here's part of the, this is part of their old operation that I'm going to probably show you pictures of if I already haven't. Get that bug juice on my windshield. But that's part of the old operation up there. I'm going to get out to show you real quick because I got too much reflection. But there's part of the old operation. And you can see that there's pipes running all the way through there. I'm going to zoom in right here real quick, show it to you. There's piping that runs all the way down there, probably to the creek. You can see all that stuff that they built up over the years. Again, you know, that was built, I think that one was built probably close to 30 years ago. Okay, so now we're coming up, and we're coming up on now, let's see some of the old equipment here. Now we're coming up on the old piles and some of this old equipment. This is part of the actual active mining operation over here. What you're seeing over there is actually still the active mining operation where they built a smaller plant, wash plant. And then they've got some of the old mining equipment from years past on display. It actually is kind of nice to be able to see it still. But there's the new scaled down version of what they work now. And so that's the small pile. And you can see that it goes way back there. That's the big dig that they did, and they went down 50 feet down in that hole to get that dirt. They went really far down. Man, I'm shocked we're getting that much gold out of this. And if you don't know, you're going to see a bunch of dogs coming up here because they run an animal rescue here too. So we're going to turn in, we're going to go up to We're gonna go up to the cabin here. And as you can see, go up to the cabin, and this is where you check in. They have a nice little lake over here. Nice little lake. You can hear the dogs from the rescue center. Woo. Okay, guys. So we just finished up doing that run down there, that speed trial, and we finished up doing a little bit of dredging, and I showed you some of the old stuff around. But this is the main cabin where you check in, and it's really cute. It's a log cabin. They've got all kinds of stuff here. They've got gems. They've got panning equipment. They've got, if you need any help with identification of your gems that you find, if you want them cut, they'll cut them here. I've had several cut here myself. I had a ruby and an emerald cut here. Brian did those for me. But this is the main log cabin up here, and there's a big lake back over here, big pond back over here. And then they have buckets of rocks over here that they've actually separated if you want to go through. So you can go through those rocks over there. But again, it's a trough full of water. You can pan, you can work their concentrates, you can work their rocks. You can do pretty much whatever you want. It's neat stuff. So, like I said, we took you down to some of the old working equipment, took you up to here. We'll probably stop. I want to show you some dogs. I can get some dog footage. And again, they have a rescue that they've had here for years and years and years. SANG, Save the Animals, North Georgia, really good cause. So if you need a dog too, if you need to adopt a dog, come down here, adopt a dog. This is the place to do it when you come through. But that's about it, I guess. We're going to take you, we're going to show you a little bit more. I'm going to take you down and show you some of the rocks that they do, the way they separate them out. You've seen me up here where they've worked that commercial operation. You'll understand why they don't just trash their rocks and why we don't trash our rocks. You're going to see all these rocks that they have down here. It's coming from their operation, their separation. So I'm going to take you down and I'm going to show you that in just a sec. Hi. Like I said, if you want to adopt an animal on your way through here, what are you going to do? You're going to stop by here at SANG up at Golden Gems. You're going to get you a little baby. Oh, and you're new, aren't you? He's new. He just came in. When did he come in?
Probably almost a month ago.
Oh, and what's his name?
Sabrina.
Her name? Sabrina. Him. Sabrina. Him. But this is Sabrina, and Sabrina's for adoption. Come get a puppy. You want a puppy at SANG at Golden Gems? I want a puppy. Yes, I do. So anyways, we're up inside the shack now, up inside the cabin, and I'm going to walk down and I'm going to get you and show you some of the rocks that they process down here. But if you want to come pet about 100 dogs, good place to do it. So anyways, you saw us separating rocks down there while we were working those dirt piles, and these are some of the rocks that they actually go through and separate. But you can work this, you'll find rubies, amethysts, sapphires, emeralds, topaz. So if you come down here, study up on your gem identification rough, because like I said, the ugliest stone in the world is a ruby till you cut it. So you'll be throwing rubies away. It's hard to figure out which ones they are. But there's one right there. That's a ruby. Sapphire, actually. So I'm doing what you're not supposed to do. I'm going through and picking out the buckets. But I wanted to see if I could find a couple things real quick. So they'll do this and they'll put these cans out. You can go through if, especially if kids come with you, they don't want to work the piles. They can come up, they can work the stones. They've got a good setup down here, and you can do either or. You can actually come up here and pan if you want your concentrates. It's a great little area. Okay guys, so I really don't know where I'm going to put this into the video, so you have to excuse me, but I wanted to show you, I was really shocked, and I can't stress this enough, and I think I talked about it just a minute ago maybe in the field, but when we pulled up and we saw this dirt, and I was like, oh man, this is nothing but clay, it's going to be a hard time, we're probably not going to get much gold. I've been there before when it's been this heavy clay stuff. And you can't even get it through a classifier. It's just miserable. You're pulling clay balls out all day. But that's mining. Sometimes you got to work clay or clay-borne material with clay in it. So personally, we did our run. We ran over 2,000 pounds of material in 26 minutes. And I said, man, there's so much clay in this stuff. I just don't know if we're going to find any gold. So we did the run, and I grabbed a little scoop of the concentrates. I think I showed you some of it, but I'm going to show you the gold that we recovered. And what's going to blow your mind about this is there's maybe 2 or 3 little pickers inside of here that are a little bit larger, but the amount of fine gold that I found shocked me. Just because with all this clay and moving as much material as we did, the amount of fine gold, and I'm talking in the 20s, 30s, 50s, and 100s, the amount of fine gold that this machine captured running that quickly, running that material, it really shocked me. I've never caught that much material before going up there. This is the first time we've run the finish unit with scrubber in it. And if you have clay material, you're going to want to run the scrubber. But we ran it scrubber, UR scrubber. And man, I got to tell you, I'm about to show you some concentrates. And I think if you're not impressed, I don't know what else to say. Okay guys, so this is the material that we ran through the 25-minute run. And we did not run the end part of it again. So this is just what we ran. This is 1 ton of material. These are the concentrates. I brought it home. I ran it through the gold cube. This is what I've got left. I've got about 3/4 of a cup of black sand and gold. And when I started looking at these concentrates, I kind of flipped out a little bit. So I'm just going to knock this down, and I'm not going to try and get all the gold here to show you. I just want to show you some of it. But you're probably starting to see some of this, and I want to make sure we're not glaring out here. But I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so have patience with me. But this is what I wanted to show you right here. I wanted to show you some of this stuff starting to show up right here. All these little finds, wire gold. There's a bunch of wire gold in here. But there are literally hundreds of pieces of gold in here. And they're small. There were 2 pickers in here that we found. And one of them I call the bow tie. I think it just blew it out of here. I've got a bunch of suds in here because I've got jet dry. Plus I think I put a little soap in here, to be honest. Just because I couldn't find my jet dry just now. But there's a piece in here that I call the bow tie. That's pretty cool. And you know, the big stuff, there are, like I said, there are about 2 or 3 pickers in here. And then the rest of it's like the -20, -30, -50, and -100s. And I'm going to try and get some of this for you on camera so you can see it. But this is what I wanted to show you. I mean, there's a piece of -50 at least. And there's all kinds of fine gold all up in here. This is that little bow tie piece I was talking about. It's like a piece of strip gold that's folded up on itself, and it actually creates a little, almost like a bow tie. It's really cool. But there's all kinds of little fine gold in here. And this is what amazed me in this unit, is that we went up there and we're finding all this little gold up in here. There's just hundreds of pieces of -30, -50s. There's 20s in here, and there's 100s. But there's a little -100 there, 50 right next to it, 30, 20s, all in here. Let's see. Let's see if we get by the bubbles here. Here's what I want you to see. I want you to look at all that gold up in here. That's amazing. This is what shocked me. I went back up to the cabin and talked to them up there, and I said, you know what? In all the years I've been coming here, I have never seen that much gold. I have never seen that much gold. And I was literally shocked when I went and we did a 26, this is 26 minutes up in that area. 26 minutes, and I'm looking at gold just all over this pan, just all over it. There's gold all over this thing. See if I can pull some of this over. Widen out here a bit. This is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This is the stuff that in 26 minutes we were able to catch that much gold. And there's still more back up in here. But we were able to catch that much gold, running that fast, running that clay material. That was amazing.